Hello and welcome back everyone to the video series dedicated show on MTV that would like to wish you a happy Halloween. And with my costume, I do want to give a shout out to Jordan because he donned the white cowboy hat. And for this costume, I had to get one myself, and I think I make this look good. But now let's get to this week's review and recap for The Challenge Season 40 Battle of the Eras Episode 11, which did not have as much spice as Episode 10, but it still had spice. It still had some strategy talk, but before we get into anything of this episode, let's start off where last episode left off, which was Bananas winning in the elimination against Ryan, being able to pick targets except for Tori, and so he chose Nia, Olivia, and Michele. So coming back to the challenge house, Bananas has some people to answer to. First of which is Kyland and Theo, who want to know why he targeted their challenge girlfriends. Especially Kyland, who feels like Banana should have known that there would have been a possibility, or could have been a possibility, that Tori could have been off the table. I mean, Bananas has done over 21 seasons. And even if Bananas was 99% sure that he could choose Tori, there's always that 1% that the challenge will throw a curveball, but I can also see it on the other side that the week prior, when the game turned into individual, on the Challenge Official podcast, Ryan talked about the verbiage that TJ used to describe how Tori and Kyland could choose targets going into last week's episode, and it made it seem like the game was resetting and maybe there could have been a free-for-all moving forward. To me, I think Bananas is playing dumb. That, or he really wanted to believe that he could choose Tori and just had tunnel vision on her to where when TJ threw that curveball, it threw him completely off. Somebody else that has questions for Bananas is Michele, who confronts him about putting her as a target as well as kind of kicking her while she's down, calling her Devin's soon-to-be ex-girlfriend. Neither person is seeing eye to eye with each other during this conversation. Michele basically ends this thing saying that Bananas may have tried to look out for her, giving her that warning to watch out for Devin. He might break your heart or be using you for game. But at the end of the day, Bananas was the one that actually hurt Michele. Bananas brushes that off, and we move to a conversation between Nia and Olivia, the other two ladies of leisure, and how much they have really connected during the season. Both agree that the game would be so hard to maneuver or just be enjoyable to hang around in the house without each other, as well as Theo and Kyland. This conversation had me worried because I was like, okay, all three of the women that were chosen to be targets did the worst in the daily challenge in episode 10. And now that they're having these more intimate conversations and more camera time than they have ever had up to this point, and I was thinking, yikes, this could be two ladies of leisure facing off against each other. With that in mind, everybody dons their challenge gear, heads down to meet up with TJ for this week's daily challenge called Building Bridges. All the contestants have to go one at a time through this very big, pretty complex obstacle course. They have to complete it as quickly as possible. The quickest man and woman to finish this obstacle course would win into power, win into safety, and the last place finishing woman would be going directly into the elimination. Whichever man finishes in last place will be getting a penalty going into next week's daily challenge. And speaking of penalty, TJ tells Michele that she will be getting a 30-second time penalty. To me, that was scary for Michele because, again, she didn't do so hot in episode 10's daily challenge. This daily challenge looks just as physical, and now on top of that, she has a 30-second time penalty. I thought, Michele, you better get your head ready to be sent directly into the elimination. But when we actually get to seeing some of the performances, some were very interesting, both in a good way and a bad way. Johnny Bananas is up first, and he is looking rather strong. If it wasn't for him missing the first coin, and lucky enough, his Bananas angels were looking out for him, telling him to go back and get the coin. But if he didn't miss that coin and waste precious seconds in that obstacle course, he could have had a really strong chance of getting this win. Jenny goes up for the women, and she misses the halfway mark, but it looks like in later runs, people were just missing that on purpose, or they weren't really trying as hard. We saw Nehemiah, Rachel, as well as Jordan missed the middle way part and they just went the long way around, it wasn't going to help them, and I think they felt good enough in their own performance that they weren't going to get last place. Somebody who does incredibly well is Kylan. Kylan is shown to have the endurance, have the strength, he has height, which is going to help in this competition. He can do puzzles, and he has an incredible round. Two other players that do incredibly well is Aviv and Tori. Tori, in my mind, is a top competitor. She absolutely blew me away in her performance in last week's really tough, really physical daily challenge. And on this daily challenge, she does incredibly well again. She is no pretender, she is all contender, as she gets second place for this daily challenge. I mean, it comes down to 600ths of a second, and Tori just barely gets edged out by the winner, which I will save for a little while. This daily challenge was a major disadvantage for people who did not have the height. As we saw, Cara Maria is like 5'2", I believe, 5'2" or 5'4", in that range. She is quite small and she disqualified. We also saw Nehemiah, Olivia, and Michele all disqualify as well. I was worried for Aviv going into this competition because she's the smallest out of everybody. When it came down to it, it didn't matter if she was 5 foot or even 5 inches. She was not going to let anything stop her from competing at 100%. And we even find out at a certain point that she felt something pop, and she's been dealing with plantar fasciitis to the point where I think she's going to be majorly injured going into next week's episode. But Aviv has done incredibly well up to this point, especially in this daily challenge. So I want to give a major shout out to Aviv. I talked about Michele, Olivia, and Naya all having really bad performances. I mean, they are targets, and they all could not even complete really the first level of this obstacle course. Naya got last place. I know they all disqualified. I know Michele had a 30-second time penalty, but when it came to the disqualifications, they took how far you got into the obstacle course, and Naya didn't get far at all. Michele struggled on the rope ladder, but at least she got to the rope ladder. But Naya came in last place, so she's going directly into this week's elimination. Theo also had a really bad performance. Coming into this season, I thought Theo was going to just absolutely demolish the competition, and he looks to be in worse shape than ever before. He is slowing down. He doesn't have any endurance whatsoever. I said that Tori is a contender, where I think Theo is the exact opposite. I think he is a complete pretender on this season. He comes in last place for the men, so going into next week's mini final, he is going to have a penalty. We swap it up over to the winners, and for the winners, it's Kylan and Jenny locked in as the winners. They're going to be heading up the chamber and choosing on who to send in between Olivia and Michele against Naya. Now, in my intro, I did mention Spice, and we get it here in the bar scene. And this is where Olivia decides that she is going to confront Bananas about his pet snake comment when choosing her to be a target. Bananas tries to play it off like, look, I wasn't trying to say it. You were the pet snake. I was trying to say it to Michele, but then I said your name. Either way, Bananas tries to pull away from it. People are adding comments. You got Olivia coming at Bananas. You have Naya making comments. Bananas just decides that if all eyes are on me and everybody is coming after me, I'm gonna start throwing some pop shots around and trying to throw other people under the bus to get them a little bit in the hot seat. Once Naya makes a comment over at Banana's side, he tosses one right back at Naya that you're not even in Jordan's top 4 or top 5 women that he wants to look out for to keep in this game. That kind of gets to Naya. That little seed of doubt is planted in Naya's brain, and it kind of lingers there for the rest of the night going into tomorrow morning. Then Banana turns his attention over to Tori, his rival for the season, being like, how many guys are looking out for Tori, but really, how many guys can Tori really look out for? Which I think is rather hilarious because we have an alliance known as Banana's Angels, which is realistically the same thing that Tori is doing. Tori, of course, defends herself saying, hey, get out of my business. You have no idea what we're doing. You don't have any idea what my game is. We're on opposite ends of the house, so don't call me out. Jordan is also saying the same thing. Jordan stays as quiet as possible. I mean, Jordan gets thrown under the bus by Bananas, and Jordan just does what he has been doing this entire season and kind of laying low. That is until the next day when Naya goes and confronts Bananas about the comment of Jordan's roster. And Bananas says that the day that Bananas was getting thrown into elimination, Jordan pounced on Bananas' Angels, maybe in case that Bananas were somehow eliminated by Ryan. Jordan pounced and came to Laurel, Aviv, and Rachel, making deals and wanting them in the final or looking out for each other. So Jordan's 4 is Tori, Laurel, Rachel, and Aviv. We even hear from Josh that there were multiple conversations when they were in the team format that Jordan called Nehemiah the anchor of Era 3. I think Nehemiah and Jordan are really close friends, but my thing is that maybe there was some doubt in Nehemiah, and once Bananas said it, it kind of maybe made it more real for her that Jordan might just be playing his own game, and maybe I'm not stacking up to other people in the house. I mean, we know that Jordan and Nehemiah have a history, but Jordan also has a history with Tori and Laurel, and they are both champions, and now you add in some other really strong competitors in the game, and that can mess with other friends' psyche, you know? You can be friends outside the game, but once you're inside the walls, sometimes friendships and gameplay, they don't really go hand in hand. Nehemiah, with that seed of doubt in her head, goes to talk to Jordan about how true Bananas' claims were, and Jordan doesn't necessarily reassure Nehemiah that he has her best interests at heart. He essentially tells her that as long as Tori and Laurel and you aren't up there and I have to save like at least one of you, then we're kind of good. Jordan says in the confessional that he really has some strong connections with Tori, Laurel, and Rachel, and outside of that, he really doesn't have a strong roster, which to me, if those are your top 3, that's your roster. Jordan is looking to the final. Jordan is looking past everything, and he's just wanting to make it to the final, and at this point, I don't know if he really cares who's there with him. As long as he has some solid people who won't say his name, he's kind of cool with it, you know? I know I'm getting a little bit out of order, but the chamber was very, very boring because Michele at the bar scene told Kylan that she was going to campaign against Olivia, and whatever he wanted to do, just do it. It's a tough decision. And Michele also even gave Kylan a free pass saying, you could just throw me into the elimination. So when we get to the chamber, Kylan just says, yeah, it's you, Michele. So with that being the case, we have Michele and Nehemiah donning their challenge gear, heading down to the arena for this week's elimination called 40 Vacation. Each competitor is going to have to do math problems to unlock this chain that connects 40 heavy crates, and what you're trying to do is unlock all of these barrels and then put them in your designated square. You have to move all 40 boxes. The first person to get their 40 crates into their square will win. The ladies of leisure are not thrilled about this elimination. Moving heavy crates, doing math problems, chains, and realistically, this elimination isn't the funnest. I mean, Naya's strategy is the exact wrong strategy. She's trying to just unlock every chain, free all 40 crates, and then move them once she's done every single math problem. Whereas on the other hand, Michele is doing the math problems. She'll unlock a few crates, move them to her square, and then do more math problems. Nehemiah is just taking forever on all these math problems. Finally, she listens to Kylan and Nehemiah to just move some crates. Please, show that you have done some progress in this game. And Nehemiah picks up the pace. She actually makes this look like a really close competition, but at the end of the day, it was Michele. Instead of calling Devin and Michele a great couple, they are the crate couple, because in the past 2 seasons, each of the players have won an elimination that dealt with crates. At the end of the day, I think this elimination is going to rank pretty low in the seasonal rankings of everything. I think it was better than last week's, but that's not saying much. The bar is low from last week's. Nehemiah is unfortunately eliminated from the season, but now Michele, who gets to stay in the game and has her second elimination win on the season, now gets to pick 3 men as her targets for next episode. She really wants to say Banana's name 3 times like he was Beetlejuice, but she can only say his name once, so she calls out Bananas. Then she throws a target on Nehemiah, which wasn't too surprising. But what was surprising is that she threw a target to Jordan. I don't know, maybe there was more of a conversation because it didn't seem too shocking to Jordan, or he didn't sound too frustrated with Michele at the end of this thing after being called out by her. But we're gonna have to wait and see what's gonna happen next week. But that is it for this episode. I thought this episode was good. Again, Not as spicy as episode 10, but I still think it had a good amount of spice, a good amount of drama. There was still some strategy, but next week is exciting. The mini final. It looks really, really tough. And also there is a purge. Yes, please. I mean, this is legit survival of the fittest with the level of daily challenges that we've had in the individual portion. I mean, Fire Away was heavily physical. This past one, Building Bridges, is definitely physical. And now you're doing a mini final where they're running in the desert and doing all types of different stuff in the desert. I honestly believe that no matter who makes it to the final, if the level of competition and the daily challenges stay consistent, whoever can make it to the final legit deserves it. But that's just my opinion. What do you think about this episode? Let me know down in the comment section below. What do you think about the daily challenge called Building Bridges? Do you think that it was a good daily challenge, or did you think it was kind of meh? What do you think about the elimination? I personally think it was a little meh. But what do you think about fortification elimination game between Nia and Michele? Are you sad to see Nia be eliminated from the game? And with now it dwindling down to 16 players, who are you rooting for? Who are you rooting against? Let me know anything and everything down in the comment section below. I want to hear what you have to say. I now want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/AngelOKVids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's watching this video up to this point. Also, what do you think about my cowboy hat? Let me know down in the comment section below. I'll be back very, very soon with more Challenge 40 content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.